What's happening, everybody? What's going on? Shaner, it is sick to see you.
Good one.
So sick, man. Okay. We have had a week, my friend. I don't think I've had a day of not doing Habs content on this channel for a week at least, which is crazy because I'm like, life's busy, and it was draft week, it was free agency, and the Habs weren't quite as busy, which is not surprising, by the way, but we got a lot to talk about today. So here's what we're going to talk about for our audience, and this is where we're going to start, most likely post NHL draft free agency reaction. The Habs go off the board off the board in our minds, not theirs. And Habs development camp, which is currently underway as we speak. Got some cool images to come out of there. We're going to give a shout out to a great Habs fan in a moment who did some really nice work for David Reinbacher, which is fantastic. Philip Mesar, we just found out moments ago, expected to play in Laval next season. That's actually pretty exciting for me and for you, I think. I thought he'd play another year in junior, but we'll get to that. Logan Mailloux needs to speak with the NHL on his eligibility to play, but he is at development camp right now as well. So we got a lot to talk about, man. We got a lot to talk about, and I got to say, buddy, we did it again. We did it again. Yeah. And here he is. So, you know what? Like I did say the top, right off the top, post NHL draft free agency reaction. This is part of it, but I think we got to just go right into it with Reinbacher. Before we do, let's actually give the shout out to Patricia from Twitter.
Yes.
In fact, this is a beautiful image here. So I'm going to pull this down for a second. So Patricia on Twitter, you can actually find her handle, which we have here, at Suzuki Pizza on Twitter. So she just posted a picture of her with David Reinbacher at development camp, where she actually collected a book with Habs fans signing it like crazy and writing in it, supporting David, welcoming him to Montreal. And it's just a beautiful piece of work, basically like anti-hate, basically the crap that Reinbacher dealt with the second he was drafted from some, stupid fans who just didn't think before they tweeted or whatever. So shout out to her for putting out some positive energy and welcoming him the right way, the way the fans in Montreal should, the reason the fan base, can show that this is who we really are, right? Yeah. This is a beautiful thing that she did, man.
Exactly. No, I mean, I was so happy to see that. The fact that she, I saw this morning that she made the scrapbook, and then she planned on going to Brassard today to the practice facility to give it to him, and she did. Yeah. And, I watched the live stream earlier today of Reinbacher media availability, and he said, he spoke about the gift. He's like, that blew me away. Like, that was really special. And, whatever you may think of the selection, there's absolutely no valid reason to send hate to this guy. He's 18 years old, hasn't even played a game in the NHL yet, right? Has he done anything wrong? Am I missing something? Like this is a good kid who wants to be a Hab, right? When he put on that jersey, put on that hat, he was proud. He's like, this means a lot, and it's not every day you get a guy like that, right? So he wants to succeed in Montreal, and that's huge. That's massive. So we got to send all the support we can to this guy, and we got to wish him success, right? And he's a great player. Like it feels like we're forgetting just how good he is. There's a reason why he was drafted 5th. Okay. And what reassures me a lot in this selection is that Nashville, according to Pierre LeBrun, offered Yaroslav Askarov, who is arguably the best goalie prospect in the NHL, the number 15 pick, and their other first-round pick, I forget where it was, just for number 5. And apparently they were going to take Reinbacher at 5. That's how much they wanted him. And the Habs didn't want to move back either. Like Arizona apparently was going to take him if he was there. So you have 3 teams there who are very, very high on Reinbacher. That brings a lot of confidence to see that it wasn't just the Habs scouts that were really high on him. It was a lot of scouts that were. So makes me feel good. And I got to plug the Sick podcast real quick. Most recently we had a guest on who is an analytics guy for the Swiss league that Reinbacher plays in, and he was bringing up some really interesting stats. And in his opinion, you put them at the same age, same level, he is superior to a Simon Nemec, a David Jiricek, who were both taken in the top 5 last year. So it's really encouraging stuff. I mean, at the same age, he had a lot more points than Roman Josi in the same league. And Reinbacher is apparently not an offensive guy. So however you want to look at it, this is a very, very promising pick. Again, we did plenty of shows before the draft saying who we'd want to pick, and we both agreed to take a forward. But the fact remains that we weren't on those conversations. We didn't go see them play, right? We're basing off our opinions off of video and commentary from guys, from scouts who have, watched these players play. But the more I hear about Reinbacher, the more excited I am, man. That's going to be a cornerstone at our blue line for many, many years.
It seems that way. I mean, it's so easy to turn the blinders on, man. And that's why, like, you and I were just like, okay, which forward are we going to select, for weeks? So this just wasn't even a question for us, that this was something that the Canadiens needed to do, was select a forward. And a lot of us thought that way. There was very few that didn't and thought we should take, a defenseman or in this case, Mr. Reinbacher. But it's amazing how quickly you can be served a piece of humble pie. Like last year, you and I, same thing. That's why I started off showing Slavkovsky, because we were both shocked. And same thing this year. It's almost like the Canadiens have a plan that they're willing to see through regardless of the fan reaction. And I got to give them kudos for that, because they're not leaning one way or the other. And you know what? I looked at this picture here earlier, and I just, please calm down, everybody. I'm not trying to compare him to Shea Weber, but I'm like, look at his size.
That's how big boy.
Like, just for 18 years old, like he just looks like I have several pictures of Shea Weber from calendars from the last few seasons, and like just like his stature there, I'm like, oh geez, he reminds me of Shea's structure there. And I know Shea's 6'4" and Reinbacher 6'2", and Shea Weber is going to have probably a lot more goals at the end of his career than Reinbacher will. Whatever, he was a power play specialist and had one of the best shots in the world in the history of the game. So I'm not comparing him to that. I'm not doing that. I'm just saying, okay, like, size wise, yes, I see. And now, you go to development camp today and you see Logan Mailloux next to David Reinbacher. I'm like, that's kind of a cool vibe right there, right? Those guys are both the future right side of the Montreal Canadiens, potentially. Yeah. Philip Mesar in the middle there, hanging out. And I just thought this was a cool shot because, Mailloux already looks like a man. He's grown up mentally and physically. Just came off a great run with the London Knights, and we'll get to him in a moment as well. But for me, David, his interviews really impressed, and just his desire to, like he said, put on the work boots, and he really wants to be a Montreal Canadian. Culture, skill, character, everything seems to line up with this guy. The more we've let it settle in that this is the guy we took, the more it makes a lot of sense, because like every fan's comment in my videos lately has been like, okay, here's the future of the Montreal Canadiens blue line from left to right. And adding Reinbacher all of a sudden made it a lot deeper, it felt like. And I'm not saying maybe they're even done adding to it for sure or for good, but I don't think they're going to add a better player at this point than what we have on the right side. So what are your thoughts on that?
I like the fact that you mentioned culture, right? That's an emphasis that, Ken, Jeff Gorton, we have been pushing for a while now. It's building a winning culture and a cohesive culture, right? So
cohesive, yes, good word.
Yes. By listening to Reinbacher, right after he got drafted and today at development camp and all that, you can tell this guy is humble, but he's ready to work. Like he keeps mentioning, okay, got to put the work boots on. Let's get to work. Let's get better. Let's learn. Like, he's excited to get better, to make the NHL and to help the team succeed. He seems like the far opposite of a selfish guy, right? And, we listened to Lane Hutson as well comment on Reinbacher, saying he's a great dude, very, very talented player. So I think all of that was a great mix for him to be a good fit here. So, I mean, I'm just excited to see what he can bring, right? Like next year, he's going to be spending the time probably in Switzerland again, working. He's got a job there. He's going to
Yeah.
school. He's going to play again in Cloton. So that's great. You know, he's going to develop. He's going to dominate that league. He was already dominating at 18. He had the most minutes on his team. He had the second best goal differential for his team at 18. He's playing against 30-year-olds, you know, who make a living. They make a living there, right? This isn't a development league. He plays in a competitive league and he dominates. So that's very encouraging. And then the following year, I think he'll be ready to make the jump for the Habs. But no, I'm really, really excited to see how this kid can help us get to that next level. And I think he will.
It's crazy, right? Like it's amazing the shift that your mind goes through when you're so focused on adding more forward talent, which we've been talking about offense for forever. Last year, Kent Hughes trading for Kirby Doc, call Kirby Doc, talking to Siri, calling Kirby Doc and telling him we're gonna play offense, right?
Yeah.
Like that's what we've been hearing. They want to build a team that just like cohesively moves the puck forward to become a strong attacking offensive fast team, exciting team to watch. That's what we've been talking about. That's the brand they're trying to build. But I didn't really know that he was a first pass kind of guy. So even if he's not necessarily known for his offense, like the first pass out of the defensive zone in terms of like you think of a stretch pass, right? The 2-line pass. So he said that he can feed offensive players the puck.
Yeah.
And he's really good holding on to the puck too. So like we already have some images from development camp here today. And sure enough, Lane Hutson and Reinbacher, as predicted. Thank you, Grant McKegg. We did see that in action. So here's Reinbacher with the puck as well. And actually I have a clip of Reinbacher and Lane Hutson actually playing together. So we'll play this really quickly here for the viewers. And you can't see too much, but like you can see Reinbacher kind of wheeling around the face-off dot here. But let's just take a look here. Kind of seeing them wheel back around. Like if you couldn't tell, they were in the white jerseys, guys. So Mailloux and one of the other Habs prospects was in the red jerseys there. But like I mentioned, these guys were in white. So could be a really interesting pairing, whether they're on the power play or as a pair in the future, whatever. Yeah. I mean, with Hutson's speed and craftiness, creativity, and then Reinbacher a little more controlled, but can still make that first pass. So just looking into the eyes of the future, it's kind of cool because I haven't really gotten, it wasn't until a few years ago I really got into the draft, probably the 2017, 18, and then 19 draft with Caulfield, Kakanyemi in 18, et cetera. But it's pretty cool being at the beginning of the process and looking into the future a bit and seeing what we might have, buddy. It's pretty exciting.
Yeah, it's and I mean they're already building chemistry, those two, right? Like they've been doing drills today together. But I like how they complement each other, right? Like you said, Hutson is an offense guy, like and having Reinbacher, who is such a complete player, like that's one of the scouting reports we've been hearing on Reinbacher is how complete his game is. He's good in every aspect of the game. So having a reliable partner in Reinbacher, I think those two will complement each other really, really well. I'm just saying that gets me fired up. Like thinking of the possibilities, how deep our defense prospect pool is too is just insane. To think that goalie might be a second pairing guy is nuts because he has all the makings of a first pairing guy. But I think those two will be running our decor for many, many years. I'm pumped, man. The more I think about it, the more I'm sold on the pick. Right? Initially, you texted me how you feeling, buddy, and then I wrote pain, and that's what I was feeling initially. Right? I'm like,
yeah,
he was, the forward was there, but the more I think about it, the more I've slept on it, the more I've read up and done some research. I'm sold on this guy. Really am. I think Kent and Jeff haven't really given us any reason to doubt what they do, right? They made a move that you can quantify as being bad yet. Questionable, maybe. Bad, I can't think of any.
I don't know about bad, but I think the worst one that comes to mind, at least so far,
Mhm.
maybe for me, is the Justin Barron trade for Lehkonen.
But
So
again,
I don't know. I haven't seen
yeah, that's
it
it.
through
So
yet, though.
it's too soon to say, right?
It's too
So
soon. I know. I know.
Barron, I think, will play a role in our decor for many years. He's still very young,
I hope he
but
proves me wrong. Yeah, big time.
yeah, that's it. But I think that was, an okay deal. But
We
I
got
don't think they've given us any question, any reason to question them, right? You look
yeah,
back at
yeah,
Bergevin, Timmins, they gave us plenty of reasons to question them.
yeah.
But Kent and Jeff so far, they seem to have a plan. They seem to be sticking to it and seems to be working. So give it some time, you know. We'll be pretty good soon. I'm not worried.
Yeah, no, it's one of those things, man. Like it was so easy. Like you get tunnel vision, and
Mhm,
you also went by the rankings too. Like Reinbacher was a lot further down on a lot of scouts lists, right? So it just seemed natural to feel like, okay, well, it's most likely that we're going to get a really good forward, and that wasn't a wrong thought to have by any
mhm,
stretch. But I mean, what Nick Bobrov said was very, very interesting, and I thought
yeah,
it was the best explanation that we got in terms of why they decided to go with Reinbacher,
mhm,
because that position is extremely, extremely hard to draft and also to fill if you don't already have that player in position years down the road when you're trying to acquire one like a right shot defenseman and a good one at that. And they show the Stanley Cup results, and a top five a defenseman was drafted in the top five for the last several Stanley Cup winners. I'm not sure the
yeah,
years, but you get what I'm saying is that it's a needed ingredient, a necessary ingredient in a Stanley Cup winning team. You think of the Petrangelos, you think of, you know, I mean, Petrangelo won a cup with St. Louis and Vegas, right?
two,
So you think of all the teams, Drew Doughty with the Kings, Seabrook and Keith
yeah,
with the Blackhawks. I know Keith's a left shot defenseman, but the more you think about
Edmund,
it, Colorado, Cale Makar. Like, do I
yeah.
have to keep
Keep
going?
going.
Like,
Yeah, every single cup winner.
so the Tampa Bay Lightning. Hello, Victor Hedman, left shot.
Yeah,
I know, but who's the right shot? McDonough is also a left shot, but was he on the right wing or the right D? McDonough, or was he left? I can't remember. But you get what I'm getting
yeah,
at here. So it seems like getting him in place now. Is it possible for you? And maybe I'll bring in the free agency title here with this here. Is it possible now that we put these guys in place, we've built out the decor? We should get to our goalie discussion. I want to talk to you about Jacob Fowler in a second as well.
yeah.
Our new Jack Eye brother. The second Bash brother has arrived. So much to talk about today. And I'm so glad I have you to talk with, because I've been like, we've all been, our heads have been spinning for a few days. So,
Okay.
where was I in the free agents? So down the road, will it be easier potentially maybe to make that splash in free agency for a forward, or at the trade deadline and hopefully sign to an extension a player? Like, do you think that's going to be easier than going the other way and trying to wait for a defenseman later? Like, for example, 2024, when there's a deeper defense draft. You know what I'm saying here?
Yeah. Well, having so much depth at defense gives us options. I say us like I'm a part of the team. Gives the Habs
You're pretty
options,
close
right?
in the media
I
now.
feel like I'm a part of the team. I got
You're
to
a
know my
media member.
background.
Yeah,
Um, but it gives options, right? Like, and it's also trade chips. It's sad to say because we all like our defense prospects, but having so much good defensive prospects, which is a high value commodity, allows us to further down the line trade some of them for forwards. Again, you need to draft forward superstars. They don't fall on they don't fall out of the trees.
yeah,
You likely won't get them through free agency. That's really hard to do, and trades is even harder. So you have to draft them. But I think we have, again, a deep core forward wise. We'll need to add to it once we're able to compete. But for now, I think having such a solid defensive prospect pool just elevates us to another level. Like, I have a hard time thinking of a team that's deeper defensively than us. Like, okay, Anaheim's got some really solid deep prospects. I mean, Buffalo's a bit of a cheat code with Dahlian and Power. There's very few teams that are as loaded and deep defensively as we are, and you need defensive depth. We all know that. So having this group come up together and solidify that chemistry, that bond, once we're able to compete, I think that'll be game changing.
I like that.
Yeah.
I do want to ask you about Alex Newhook really quickly, because we didn't get a chance to talk about him on the show since we took him. So speaking of forwards, we did acquire a forward for a first and a second round pick and a defense prospect in Gianni Fairbrother. So you texted me this. You actually broke the news to me about Alex Newhook, 22-year-old forward, Stanley Cup winner from the Colorado Avalanche, a centerman, can play wing, and really speedy, lots of potential untapped. And what are your thoughts right now on Alex Newhook coming into next season and going forward with the Canadiens here?
It's interesting, right? Like, again, it's the Kirby Doc kind of trade. Kent Hughes is 2 for 2 now. Every sort of draft period, he's made a trade for a high potential forward that was underutilized with their former team, right?
Yeah.
Newhook has all the makings of a second line forward. I won't say center because he can play wing as well, but under the right circumstances, the right coaching, the good, right line mates, he has a lot of potential, right? He put up, I think it was like a 2 point per game pace at BU, or is it Boston College or Boston University? It's one of the Bostons. Anyways, he's got that offensive upside, but it's really the speed, right? This guy will kill you on the ice with his speed. He will boom by you. And again, got to plug the Sick podcast. We had his former coach, Jerry York, the legendary Jerry York, on the show, and he said that he is one of the best skaters in the NHL, period.
Wow.
So Alex Newhook is bottom heavy. He's got thick, powerful legs. So again, that's fitting with Martin St. Louis.
Working out together, probably not.
Great coach to have for him. But I think that, this is going to be a good fit for him. We're going to be able to give him the opportunities to succeed, just like we did with Kirby Doc. And we saw what happened, right? Right away, you saw this is a different player. We're tapping into that potential now. So it's too early to say, right? He hasn't played a game in the uniform yet, but it's exciting. However, you look at what we had to give up, though. Gianni Fairbrother, again, we're deep defensively. Like I mentioned, right? These having so much depth, they become trade chips. And Gianni Fairbrother was a casualty, but I think we could afford that. And then you look at who were picked 31st and 37th. It was Mikhail Gulyayev and Ethan Gauthier. So then you don't really know how those two are going to pan out, right? So it's too early to say who won, who lost this trade. I think 3-4 years down the line, we'll have a pretty good idea. But the upside is here. Like we didn't trade for a bum. Okay. Alex Newhook was picked 16th overall for a reason. So, I mean, we have 3 guys in the top 16 from the 2019 draft, right?
Yeah.
Number 3, number 15, and number 16. So I'm excited to see what he can do, man.
Okay, I want to jump right into. I want to keep it rolling along here while you're on a bit of a roll here. So we draft at 101st overall Florian Jacki, and then Jacob Fowler, 69th goaltender. Jacob Fowler. Really liked the interview with Jacob Fowler. He compared himself to like Jake Ottinger, Craig Anderson, and one other goalie that's escaped me right now, but different playing styles from a few different goaltenders. But let's start with Florian Jacki, maybe adding, the other part of the Bash brothers, whichever one you want to, Portman or, Fulton Reed here. But what are your thoughts on these guys that we drafted in on day number 2? Because I didn't expect us to go after Florian just because it's a good story. But I mean, he's a thinner forward, but still got the stature. He's got the height.
Yeah.
And let's start with Florian. What were your thoughts on that? It's a pretty exciting thing to have the Jacki brothers here.
It is exciting. It's fun. Like it's a good story. You want to root for the guy and having both brothers. I'd rather have both brothers than play against them. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Now he's not, an offensive superstar, but the fact that he already has ties to the Habs and he was a Habs fan growing up, right? He wants to be, that's another guy who wants to be in Montreal. And that's like that's a high value, right? Like you can't teach that. You got to want to be a Hab, and this guy wants to be a Hab, which means he'll work harder to one day be a Hab, right? So he'll better his game. He said he wants to play with his brother, and I think we all want to see that as well. Imagine having two Jack guys on the ice. Yeah, I'd shit myself if I was the other team. So it's a fun pick. Like I have nothing against it. A lot of people were saying he struggles offensively. He's not the kind of guy you take that early. But I don't know. I disagree. I think he has upside other than his offensive production. If we're able to develop him fairly well, I think he could be an AHL guy, fringe NHL. Maybe someday, I'm excited to just have him within our prospect pool. And then Jacob Fowler at 69. Hopefully he wears number 69. That'd be great. Please do, Jacob Fowler. Please do. Okay, but
I have no idea what the reference is, but no,
it's fitting. Anyways, I really enjoyed listening to him talk. Like this is a high energy guy.
Great
you can
interview.
tell he's infectious. Like that's for sure in his interviews with the Habs management. They fell in love with him. Easily. Yeah. And he's no bum either. Like he was ranked top 5 goalies in this draft class by most, if not all, rankings. So to have him, that late 69th is pretty good. I mean, all the goalies were going for, early in the second round, and then we were able to grab him in the third round there. So that was really, really good. I'm excited. Drafting 3 goalies it might seem strange, but the fact that you have, again, so many goalies means that you have options, right? If, like, let's say one of them pans out, then that's money. That's perfect, right? So you put the odds in your favor, right? You have more goalies, and that's something we were lacking, right? We didn't have many good, solid prospect goalies like Primo, Dobesh. Who else, right?
Yeah.
So now we add Jacob Fowler, we add Quentin Miller, and we had a Russian guy, forget his name anyways, but he had really, really good stats though. So I'm excited, but those 3 guys, right? Goalies are hard to draft because they're so dependent on their team and up front. Like if they play on a bad team, they're going to look bad, but if they play on a good team, they're going to look great. So it's hard to evaluate just how good the goalie is individually speaking. But Jacob Fowler put up some insane numbers in these most recent playoffs. He had a .952 save percentage and propelled his team to a championship win. So I'm excited. I think that's a good pick.
I think he could, like, I don't really know the future of Caden Primo, but I think it's like he's competing for Caden Primo's spot, maybe, in a sense, because we don't know what we have in Dobesh quite yet either, but a lot of fans do seem to think he's got a lot of potential. Mm-hmm. So say it's a potential future tandem of, I have no idea about, I can't really say much on Jacob Fowler yet. And also Sam Montembeault is still around. Jake Allen is not part of the future, but I don't want to rule out Montembeault just yet either, but if we get one of Montembeault and Dobesh or Fowler and one of them works out, I think that's a great sign. It'd be great if Jacob did, because I feel like he has the personality that's going to fit right into that locker room.
Yeah.
In terms of what he produces what he does on the ice is going to be evaluated the most. I mean, he can be a great guy, super nice guy, super personable, which he is, but it's all about, show me, don't tell me. Right. So
that's it.
I'm looking forward to seeing that too. Mesar is expected to be in Laval next season. I went and watched Mesar. Some of you guys know, and tried to interview him. Kitchener shut me down because they think they're in the NHL. I don't know. But, Peterborough with Owen Beck, forget about it. Those guys were awesome. They were so polite. They went on to win the OHL championship. Deserved. They were class organization to deal with. But when it comes to Mesar, I thought he was going to play another year in Kitchener in the OHL. But it sounds like, based on the interview we just heard minutes ago from Twitter, from the Montreal media, that he's actually been told that he was going to just do 1 year in junior, and then it's expected that he's going to play in the Val this season, which I didn't know. So what are your thoughts on seeing what we have in Mesar? Because some fans seem to be on the fence about, taking him at 26 last year in the first round. So what do you think about Phil? Because I think there's still, I don't think we quite know what we have in him yet, although we do believe in him still. I know I do.
No, he was taking 26 for a reason. Like, He has very high upside. Again, a fast player. Like he can skate, very
Very smooth
smart.
skater and
That's
smart.
it.
Yeah.
So, I think we've just forgotten about him a little bit because he's
Mm-hmm.
sheltered away in Kitchener. But now having him in Laval, and I think he will succeed in Laval, given the right opportunities. But like Laval lost a lot of players to free agency, so I think he'll have some decent ice time, power play minutes. Um, we got to give him the right opportunities to develop. I think he could generally make a splash here. And I remember last year's training camp, he was a standout. Like him and Owen Beck lasted almost the entire training camp because just how good they were. So he can
Mm-hmm.
play with the big boys. I'm excited to see what he can do this year. But yeah, I think Laval is definitely the place for him.
Yeah, it's going to
Yeah.
be cool to see, see him and let's talk about Logan then next. So
Yeah.
Logan Mailloux needs to speak with the NHL, in order to be considered eligible to play at the pro level. So it sounds like all signs have so far pointed to him being eligible. He should become eligible based on the fact
Mhm.
he's gone through a lot of the rehabilitation, and counseling that was asked of him, and all that sort of stuff from the incident that occurred before the draft. We know Logan lived with Nick Suzuki last year in the summertime. He's here at development camp. He looks happy. He looks like he had a great year in London, first of all.
Oh yeah.
So Logan's numbers offensively were very, very good. They were the top. He was the top offensive defenseman in terms of goals in the OHL last year with London. So, assuming he gets past once he speaks to Bettman in the NHL, another guy on the right side who is known for offense, and I think that if all goes well, he will be in Laval as well, right?
I agree. I agree. I think he's done with juniors. He's outgrown that. He's ready to play with the big boys, and who knows? He might even have a few games with the Habs this year, depending on injuries. So, but
Yeah.
I think most of his time will be spent in Laval. Again, big minutes for him. You want to put him in the first two pairings, give him some power play time. Let him run the QB power PP1, because that's his bread and butter. Like he is an offensive defenseman, great shot, just a missile. And that's another thing that we've been forgetting about for Reinbacher. That kid can rip it. He's got a solid shot. So, having Mailloux and Reinbacher, that's anyways. Getting off track here, but
You
Mailloux,
guys were right, and we're sorry.
but
We're sorry.
I forget who it was on Twitter. It might have been Stu Cowan. I don't know, but one of the journalists was at the Brassard complex today, and they said like he is standing out both physically and like his play. He is fast. He's playing well. He seems to be ready to make that jump, and I'm excited. I mean,
Mayu
this
or
is a
Reinbacher?
prospect that would have gone top 15 had there not been the whole controversy.
Okay,
So
gotcha. So Mayu. Okay.
yeah, so the potential is there. We've seen it with London. He was one of, if not, was he the best offensive defenseman in the OHL? Anyways, he was one of,
Goals wise,
that's
yes.
for sure. He was okay.
Goals wise, absolutely. Like the first
Yeah.
one in a long time to go over 20 goals, and he was.
So
So
imagine just that top four of Hutson, Reinbacher, Gooley, and Mailloux, right? That is nuts. That is nuts. We've been talking about, okay, we haven't had a 50 goal scorer, we haven't had a 100-point guy in a while. That's true, and we have some guys that can touch that, right? But think about the defensive core here. This is unprecedented. Like how I have never seen a decor this deep from any NHL team. I don't think. Like the potential is very much there, and now we actually have a player development program. We have Adam Nicholas, who is renowned for developing players well. So, had this been a few years back, I might have been worried. Like, okay, we might screw these guys up, but I'm really confident. I think we'll give these guys great opportunities to develop and help us to the promised land.
to the promised land. That's where we're headed. Yeah. So Logan's numbers again, just last year: 59 games played with London, 25 goals, 28 assists,
That's a
53 points
defenseman.
and that's a
Those are
defenseman.
forward numbers. That's nuts.
Yeah. And in 21 playoff games, 8 goals, 16 assists, so 24 points in those 21 games.
It's
So
crazy.
what it sounds like they may not have in Mailloux, they may have in Reinbacher, and vice versa. Whatever, you know what I'm saying? So, like,
Yeah.
we're going to get some nice elements on the right side from those two guys. I have a hard time not seeing Logan, because it does seem like Logan just has that. Just looking at him, he seems like he's grown up quite a lot in a lot of ways, and just looks like physically, like he was a leader on the London Knights, and the guy that they can all play physical too. Like, that's the other thing. And then we got Jack Guy. So you mentioned Gooley on the left side. So you figure
Good Lord.
Gooley, Jack Guy, Hutson on the left, Mailloux, Reinbacher, and insert third defenseman on the right side, which I don't know.
Probably Barron.
I get Barron. Thank you. So
Yeah.
that's who, in terms of prospects that are untapped, that are part of the future long term.
Yeah.
Maybe that's the right side that we're looking at. Maybe Barron on the third line. Like, I'd be more than fine with that. It seems like a comfortable fit. Maybe Reinbacher pairing 1, Mailloux pairing 2, and then Barron pairing 3. Maybe that's just a guess. I mean, it's totally speculative, but.
And then we haven't even talked about Jordan Harris, Adam Engstrom,
still here.
William Trudeau. Like, the list goes on. We have so much depth, and these are all guys that can and should be playing in the AHL someday. So again, these guys become trade chips to further improve our forwards. There's options here, right? So if one of them doesn't pan out, you got depth. You can bring another guy in, right? It's never bad to have too many defensemen, especially on the right side, right? Again, it's a commodity. You know, a lot of people talking about trading for drafting for need, and the last time we did that was KK, and we know how that turned out, right? And I talked about that, I think, on a video with you a while back. Was, you know, when you draft for need, that player isn't ready right now. So when the player will be ready, will you still have that need? Chances are you won't. So drafting for need is always the wrong choice. In this case, you can never have too many good elite right-handed defensemen like Reinbacher. So again, it's sort of a need because we're low on right-handed shots, but it is a high-value commodity. We didn't draft him for nothing, right? You look back at the KK draft, we drafted him solely because he was a center. So we passed up on Brady Tkachuk. We passed up on Quinn Hughes because KK was a center. And we know how much of a mistake that was. Not to say KK's a bad player. We could have had some elite talent at number 3. But again, this is a different scenario, in my opinion.
Yeah, and with Reinbacher too, again, they felt like he was the best, and can, like, you start to get a picture of him being part of the really big part of the solution. All the minutes he's going to log, and the role he's going to play. Like, this guy could have an A on his jersey one day. You know, I know that's way long down the road potentially, but it's interesting the way that they explained why they took him. It wasn't just need. It was like, this guy's going to bring something that's going to be part of the team for a long time. And again, it's just, I'm more on board with the pick the more the days go on. We also lost some players. So surprisingly, and good for him, by the way, Jonathan Drouin gets a contract with the Colorado Avalanche, 1 year, 880,000, whatever it is. So we lose Drouin, Dadonov, Guryanov. So those guys are going to be off the forward group, which opens up doors for the Canadiens. Now, I want to ask you about a player or two off the book here without titles inserted and stuff. Joshua Waugh, also going to be in Laval this year, in your mind? He was at camp
1,000%.
So we could be looking at Joshua Waugh, maybe even Owen Beck, and Mesar in Laval this year.
That would be my ideal first line, to be honest with you. No,
that sounds awesome.
You need, okay, so these guys would complement each other so well, and the offensive dynamic, speed, skill. Sure, the AHL is more of a grind, grimy kind of league, but you have other lines to handle that. Those guys, you need to give them big minutes, great opportunities on the power play. I would be thrilled if that was our first line in Laval.
Just to have them all there. It sounds like that might be the plan, and we'll see where they're at. But
yeah, we lost Alex Belzile. We lost Anthony Richard. We just lost Pierre-Éric Dubé. I just saw that now. Corey Schoeneman on defense, right? Laval is decimated from free agency. So those young guys are going to have spots, and big spots, right? Because Alex Belzil, Anthony Richard, arguably our two best forwards in Laval last year. So they need to be replaced somehow. And I think they'll be replaced by our young guys.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, I like the sound of that personally. So I think, Alex from Habs Fan TV was on, and he said that he's looking forward to Laval Rocket, and even more so now, I think, if those kind of guys are going to be there. So lots to look forward to. Well, we hit a lot of stuff today. We talked about a lot of players, a lot of stuff through free agency. We didn't talk about Joel Edmondson getting moved, but he got moved for a couple draft picks, and we weren't obviously very active in terms of that market because we just haven't been. The timing is not there yet, right? So
yeah, no, that's okay. I wasn't expecting any signings, just some depth signings for Laval. But for Eddie, I mean, it's sad to see him go because he was beloved here. Like, great guy. Really wore the CH on his heart, right? And that meant a lot to him to be a Hab, and that meant a lot to the fans that he wanted to be a Hab so much, and he gave his body for this team. And he was a big factor in helping us get to the cup, right? So we had to give a big shout out to Steady Eddie, give us some great times. And same thing for Drouin, right? Whether you like him or not, like, I had the pleasure of meeting him back in 2019. Super nice guy, just so sweet. Took the time for everybody. Again, when we got him, he really wanted to be a Hab. You could tell. And he still had involvement in the community. He was a great member of the Montreal community, like I said. So big shout out to Jonathan Drouin. I really hope it works out in Colorado. I think it's the best fit. I've been saying this for a while now when we were talking about potentially trading him and all that. I think Colorado is the best fit for him. He gets to go back with his old buddy Nathan McKinnon. And with Gabe Landeskog out the whole season, they might even play on the same line. So stay on the lookout. Like, it could happen. Drouin is an underrated playmaker. He is a facilitator. And when you have an elite player like Nathan McKinnon, pairing those two is very smart. Like, you got to try it. So I really hope it works out for him.
Yeah, they're saying like Drouin, Rantanen, and McKinnon on a line or something, like for line one. I'm like, I mean, it's not impossible.
Finish with like 120 assists if that's the case.
And still have 5
3 goals and 120 assists.
Yeah, but it won't matter because that's he's contributing in the way that he knows best. So
that's it.
All the best to him for sure, and to Eddie too. Well, thank you folks for watching so faithfully throughout this week. I need a little bit of a break before I bring on Dale Weiss onto the show. I mentioned it that Dale's going to jump on with me on the channel here very soon after the draft and free agency, which he will, which we're very excited to have Dale back on the Habs podcast community, talking about the last year and a half of his life and everything that's gone on with it. So we can't wait to bring him on, but thank you, Shaner, for you coming on. It's always a treat. The fans love to hear from you, and we got to hear a lot from you today on everything that we just talked about, all these players, and what a busy week it was for us as fans, content creation wise and all that stuff. So thank you faithfully to you guys watching. It's been a thrill. It still blows my mind how much you guys tune in to watch these shows, and it means a lot. So if you are enjoying, I do appreciate if you hit like. It does spread to more folks and help grow the channel, and that's what the goal is, of course. I want to do this for a living one day full time. That's the goal for both of us, I think. And hit subscribe as well. We just passed 4,000 subscribers, so aiming for the next goal, which is 5K. So thank you, and we are going to see you guys again very soon. And salut from Shane. I forgot to hit the music, so there it is. All right, here we go. Thank you guys for watching. Appreciate it, and we'll see you real soon. Cheers, guys.